just thrilled when I had an opportunity to meet with some of the speakers yesterday. We had a little get together, and to come here in what I was saying is a diverse, and I mean diverse between students all the way to executives across the board, 300 plus strong in this room, committed to focusing on building and empowering women. How could I not be at this conference? So first of all, I give it up for all of you for being here, and thank you, because you've actually taken that first step by committing your time to meet with people, get mentors, find advocates, help others, and build a community. And we will only be as strong as the community that we all build together. So you need to be thanking yourselves for making that commitment over the next couple days to do that. So thank you again to you. So I'm going to talk about purpose. I want to kind of mix in a little bit of like a life with purpose, and what does that actually mean to you as a female leader, as to you as a female student, or just in general as a woman in technology. What does that actually look to you, and how do you show up, and how do you serve your best life in your professional world and in your personal world, and what does that look like over time? I'm going to share some of my experiences, and I think hard lessons learned maybe, and hopefully that can benefit you as you think about what you are doing in your life, not only to give back, but actually just to help you really understand what your purpose is and make you the best person that you possibly can be. So you heard, I was a former executive vice president at Microsoft, and I've had a journey. I am a person that started my career actually in engineering. People might laugh. I actually started engineering at the University of Washington, and I couldn't make it. I could not cut it. It was really, really hard. And I did not see very many other women around in engineering at the time. I didn't have a lot of people that I could go to. My family wasn't, not that they weren't supportive, but they weren't, it was very weird for them to see women in what they felt was a very men's-oriented world. So I didn't have a lot of support from my family. I don't think I washed out, but I kind of washed out. I was like, wow, I'm not really getting fulfilled here. And so I turned my sights to business. But funny enough, my very first job out of school, I went to IBM, and that's how my tech journey began. So I started in engineering. I've stayed in STEM throughout my career, and then I was sort of lucky enough to actually get an incredible introduction into technology through IBM. And I started to go through my journey, and went from IBM, where I really learned the importance, I would say, and the value of the customer, and really focusing on making sure that you are always delighting your customers and partners, which to me grounded me in something that I talk about as customer centricity. Being really there in the moment with who you're trying to serve is a very powerful thing, and they taught me a lot about that. I went to Microsoft. I'm actually a boomerang. I went to Microsoft, and I had an incredible experience at Microsoft, but I was missing something. I'd been at these big companies, and I would say that I've always been a person that wanted to build a business, wanted to start a company. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I went to school essentially to kind of do that, to find myself in some pretty big companies. And so I actually, I took a job as a vice president in a role of basically a pre-IPO and IPO startup company, early days. And what an incredible experience, because what I learned is around being resilient back then, before COVID and it became a word. What I learned is like how and what I needed to have some grit and what I needed to do, because I didn't have a name and a logo and an IBM and a Microsoft behind me. I just sort of had me and what my brand was going to represent to the customers and partners that I committed to. And it was an incredible experience, and I live in those shoes every day for every startup and entrepreneur that might be here in the room, every student that's thinking about that's where I'm going to go next. It is an incredibly hard and fulfilling road, and it's like I have a lot of respect for that. But I had 2 little babies at the time, and so that was a pretty intense set of times for me. I'm like, okay, I sold out and went back to Microsoft and actually took a step backwards. And a lot of people are like, why did you take a step backwards? Why did you do this? And I equated to taking a step backwards in role that it would give me more time to be with my family. That is actually not the case at all. I'm just here to say that I found very quickly that I wasn't fulfilled. I was missing something. I had these beautiful children. I had more time to be with my children. I'm like, what's my purpose? What am I missing here? Why am I not so happy at what I'm doing? And at that moment, at time at Microsoft, I literally sort of had, when you hear sort of a bit switch flip, I had sort of an aha moment, and I realized that I had been spending so much time trying to build my career and so much time to just prove myself as a capable female in a tech and mostly men's world at the time, that I was all about fitting in. And I realized right at that moment in time that was not fulfilling for me anymore. And for me, my purpose was, how can I advocate for others? And how can I use all the lessons that I've learned and all of the experiences that I've learned and start to give that back in a different way? And it started actually in the classroom, and it really started with my daughter being born, who was very much interested in STEM and encountered a lot of the roadblocks, quite frankly, that I encountered even back in grade school. Math teacher, you don't want to take that advanced class. That's way too hard for you. You don't want to take that engineering class. This is a really great class that, they do like cooking and economics and stuff, and, they like these craft classes, do crafts. And my daughter's like, what's going on? And so we brought STEM into the education system in elementary school. And all of a sudden it gave me purpose. I was excited. I was like doing something that I felt was going to be meaningful for me when I finished out my life, that I was doing something that had purpose. And so I started that actually in the classroom, but I realized and recognized really closely from that on, we had that same challenge in the workplace. I had seen women not get promoted. I've seen women of the exact same title be underpaid and underrepresented. I've seen women being able to not even be able to get funding in the VC community because they were considered female entrepreneurs. I've seen that all that had happened, and I realized that I needed to do more than just giving back into the classroom. I needed to give all the way back into the boardroom. And that gave me a new set of purpose, and one that basically got me to be the vice president at Microsoft. And when I took my eyes off of like what was in it for me, and I took my head up and I said, hey, what is going to give me purpose? It made me more confident. I was happy all the time. I loved everyone I met and what I did. And it sort of just changed my perspective and actually changed my velocity, quite frankly, as an executive at a company that's, quite large and hard, essentially, to kind of break that glass ceiling. But it was something that I equate to shifting my focus to a purpose that was going to fulfill me by giving to others, that I equate to sort of the velocity of my own career. And from there, I started, basically co-founded something called Women in Cloud. It's about 15,000 strong across the globe in 7 countries, and really focused, similar to here, around how do we help new businesses that are going into the technology world be successful. And it's not just because they're women. It's about how do we actually create the right networking environment? How do we actually make sure that there's a book of business and a pipeline and opportunity that you don't go out of business? How do we make the right connections and sponsorships and mentorships? And so Women in Cloud for me was another outlet that I could give back to the tech industry of so many incredible, talented people that I've met through my entire career. And so it was a way to sort of encapsulate that. And from there, I started to get what I felt was like a dream job. They wanted me to go lead sustainability for Microsoft, but also bring in our artificial intelligence business, because bringing innovation into things like sustainability allowed us to reach and do so much more. So I kind of got to do this like role of a lifetime, and it was really exciting. The reality of it was a short-term role to basically get us ready for a market when we launched our sustainability work. But the point being is, I stopped taking roles because something was given to me, and I started taking roles because it served what for me would fill my bucket. For me, it was what was giving me purpose. And so I was able to work on the things around skilling in local communities, helping with the diversity challenges that we're seeing in some of our underserved and underrepresented communities, focusing on global issues to really help us on the sustainability side. And as I did that work, I realized that I wanted to do more, and I had more to give. And so today I am announcing I had left Microsoft a few days ago, and I'm taking the channel chief role at Splunk here in San Francisco. And I'm really excited about that. Thank you. Trivia on, check back with me in about 30 days. But I'm excited, and if you'd asked me 5-6 years ago, I probably would have never have done that, to be honest. I would never have taken the risk. I was very comfortable at the company I was at. And so, why? And everyone's like, why did you do this? Why did you do this? I'm like, I have more to give. I want to build markets. I want to be able to go build and create things. And I want to do that in a way where I can make a big impact to a company that's going to be able to grow and build with me. And so it was something that I said, like, as I learned in my journey, you start to overcome some of your fears. You start to overcome some of the things of, like, why not? And then, why? And that's kind of what I, started to do. And in that process, I think the thing that we all are seeing in technology is that we are just in this crazy roller coaster of a ride. It is absolutely changing every aspect of our lives. I mean, think about coming out of the pandemic. Think about the hybrid work environment that we just faced. Think about healthcare and the amazing technology that contributed to us being able to get over some of these global pandemic issues that we've seen. Think about technology in ways that now are being able to really help in poverty-stricken areas with education and access. Think about microloans in the financial services sector being able to help with local economies that are struggling. We are in a place where technology, and every one of you, contributes to the growth of making a difference in the world. And I want you to sit and think about that as I go through the rest. Because you're all in a position to take an active role. This was the first step today. Many of you I've talked to are so engaged in doing things. What is it? And maybe write it down, be thinking about it. What are you going to do as your next step to make an impact on the world? And so with this massive cloud technology and capability and making this impact, women are solving challenges. What the heck? Like, why is this even, why do we even have to have these conversations? Well, we're here because as technology is going at lightning speed, women are actually further and further being left behind in technology. Whether you're working in technology, you're periphery to the business, or you're a recipient, you are seeing this in the stats across the board. And so we have to recognize that we have a responsibility and a purpose that beyond what technology is doing, we have to be able to do a little bit more. So let me give you an example of what I mean by this, because I think it's important for us to understand what's happening a little bit on the macro side. For the first time ever, by the way, 10 years ago I couldn't say this, women are outpacing men in terms of degrees. Pretty amazing. That is first time ever, by the way. 57% and counting. But only 18% are actually going into technology field of computer science. So we are not there yet in a 50-50 world by any means. We're going in the right direction, but with opportunity becomes challenges. We also have seen an amazing startup of women-owned businesses. And I mean, it's just been an incredible growth opportunity to see that we've come up to 40% actually with women-owned businesses. However, when you look at tech startups, only 5% of women are representing tech startups today. That's why you're starting to see Melinda Gates and other venture capitalist firms look at the importance of venture-backed women businesses, because diverse perspective is something that is incredibly important to the growth of innovation. Now, we're making some inroads in the C-suite, and it's really exciting, and I am excited that I look around the table and see a lot of other female executives, but fewer than 3% women of color. We have our work to do on this for sure. And when you think about, again, all the inroads back at the top of everyone's graduating, and we are sort of at an equal level of graduation, when we think about tech, you go down to less than 2% now have an opportunity in cloud, and only 1% of this entire funnel will get corporate contracts for an opportunity in their business to grow their business. So these are the things that we have to come as a community to help. Where do we find new opportunities together? How do we find new business prospects together? How do we find new mentorships and community? These are all things that are going to make a massive change with that step. And so from my perspective, we have to think almost tactically on what are we going to do to essentially close the gender gap. And I think you can be thinking about this in the conference this week. What can we be doing to essentially help that? So the first one is about empowering girls. I heard there's a bunch of UC people in the house. I'll get there in a second, but I hope they're still here. I love that. And so it starts actually with empowering girls. And what got me to my job and what got me to my first executive position is not going to get our girls to where they need to get to tomorrow. And so we have to reshift the way that we think about, which is like, oh, nose to the grindstone, I'm going to work and someone's going to see what I do, or all of these other sort of things like you have to be, have all this courage to step up and do this. No. I subscribe to the fact that our girls are going to learn something very different. This is my daughter, by the way. Empowerment. We have to empower our girls at a very young age to believe that they can do it in the world of STEM. In the world of technology, they have to know that there's no difference between them and the boy next door. And so that's my daughter, actually. She was in 4th grade talking to the Bellevue Public School District, I'm out of Seattle, Washington, talking about more funding needing to come in as a voting rights to technology-based curriculum in the school. Why do I put that picture? Because her teacher believed that she could do it. And then all of a sudden your role models start to change. I don't have to have a role model before that, is sort of, might not speak up, or, a role model that's maybe all glamour. No. The role models that our girls are starting to look at is independent, fierce, passionate people that they can have it all and do all. And these are the role models that we're starting to create, our superheroes of the future. I try to change around courage, and I talk about being fearless. There is a difference. One is sort of negative, and one is about empowering. Remember, back to my whole empowering thing. Think about your ability to be fearless in your pursuit of what's important in your purpose. It's hard and it's scary, but if you can start to get these skills, that means more risks are going to be taken. More hands are going to stand up and challenge the status quo. People are going to start making a difference in that funnel that you saw because of the fact that they are empowered to know, one, I'm supported, and two, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be fearless along the way. And by the way, when I do that, I am going to practice humility every day. I practice humility every day. I actually say 3 things that I'm thankful for every day. And why is that important? Because when you can practice humility and you can practice empathy, you become a better leader. You become a person that is actually going to be able to grow teams and organizations and reach for things that could never be possible. So a really important skill for our young women to learn. And then at the end of the day, it's not so much about the hours that you work. It's really about the grit that you want to develop. This mental toughness, if you've heard the word of grit, that's going to not let you down. It's going to pick you back up when you fail, because you will fail. If you haven't yet, I failed my whole career. You will fail at some point in your life. And the question is, will you be able to get back up and take the next step? Or do you start to crumble because you haven't built out that skill set to help you get over that? And that can be major life failures, and it can be little tiny failures. But the important thing is, what are you doing to build up your own resiliency and grit so that you can take those things in the workplace, oftentimes outside of the workplace, and even in your personal life. And so, for me, the thing then is, beyond the skills, what else can I be doing to make an impact? What else can I have that will give me purpose, but will also give an impact as well? And so 3 things for me that have become really important. The first I sort of talked about, which was really about empowering young girls. I try to give my time and volunteer, try to speak, I try and raise funds and do other things to really get our next generation of leaders up, empowered, and out the door. And I mentor a lot of young female women, and actually I reverse mentor. I get a lot of learning from the next generation of leaders that are coming out, and I learn from all of you all every day. The second was, how do I make sure that women are going to be in position of leadership? Because when you're in a position of leadership, you do get a chance to help then the next generation. So for me, it was creating programs at Microsoft and continuing to bring that onto Splunk in a way that I can foster that leadership and empower women in the workplace. And I'm committed to being able to do that. Case in point, the company I went to, so excited, They were thrilled that I was here, because I came over here as a Microsoft employee, but Splunk was thrilled I was here because this is exactly what they want to be doing, to go back into the community, because it actually makes us all better at the jobs that we are and more successful in the industry that we serve. And so really incredible opportunity to really focus and support on that. And then the last thing is really, how do I look at creating a momentum around diversity and inclusion? And when I think about diversity and inclusion, it goes to me more than just making sure I have equal representation. For me, it's about building sustainable change. And so I look at the programs that I'm building, and some of the programs such as this that I'm like highly supportive of, because it's actually getting people together to make commitments to make change, as opposed to just having the conversation around it. And it's really taking sort of your perspective and your excitement into this area and taking it into action. And so these were the things around me. It became very personal. And I had an opportunity that I appreciate, that the company that I chose to go to is supporting my personal mission. And that gives me purpose. And when it gives me purpose, I can show up every single day to do my very best work. Now, you're going to go into the rest of the sessions, and there's amazing stories that you're going to hear that are just incredible about all of these extraordinary women in technology and what got them to get here and to move to the next level. And I think you're going to really enjoy that. And so what I tried to want to share in the last 5 minutes is, okay, well, you're talking about your life of purpose, but how you do it? Like, give me some growth hacks on how maybe I should be thinking about it. And so I wanted to share with you my own, so you have a chance. I encourage you to think about what your own would be and start to really live in those values of what's going to give you purpose. But the first one is around courage. And for me, it took a long time to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And in fact, I got to a point where when things were too comfortable, I actually pushed myself to get uncomfortable. Because when I felt that I got to a place that I was getting complacent, or things were getting a little too easy, was I really pushing the envelope hard enough? So getting that courage for what's important to you and the conviction that's what's important to you, and that again is something in your work life and in your personal life. Vulnerability, bringing your authentic self. That took me 20 years, by the way. I was fake it until I made it, or fake it till you make it, or what you can, I was all about what is the persona that a female executive should look like, and I want to be that person. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. My role model is so-and-so, right? It took me 20 years to unwind that thinking and realize that I had to bring my best personal self to everything I did every day. And by the way, you may not like what you see, but it's authentic. It's authentic. You're gonna get what I bring out, and you're gonna see all the bumps and the scars and everything that is not perfect about me, and it's on full display. But the thing that I learned about being vulnerable is that it is an absolute connectivity to your peers here in the room. When someone can realize and recognize, hey, you're not a perfect person, you have all of these things that you're learning through every day. We now have shared experiences that we can share with each other. And it took me kind of 20 years and some really good books with Brene Brown to really get there. But I think an important one in my sort of growth hack. The next one is practicing optimism. Resiliency is like the sort of new word in the COVID era, obviously. But I have been living this for a long time. And in fact, my own personal mission statement is live every moment with passion and compassion. And for me, this was all about how do I look at every situation with the optimism and opportunity that it really presents itself, because everything has an opportunity with it. Every challenge has an opportunity. Every cloud has its silver lining. What is it that you're going to be able to take advantage of that? And so it's something that, as you start to practice that optimism and you realize that, things will be hard, and whether that's in your personal or your professional life, you will be able to connect on a totally different level because you can get through those things in a way that maybe, I hadn't done before. Now, the last one for me, I think one of the most important, and I want to talk about leading with empathy. I actually talk about that as an important skill for the future generation. It's a very important skill for the existing leaders, men and women out there today in the marketplace. Because the reality is that when you can practice empathy and you can actually lead with humility and really recognize that takes a village for all of us to do what we need to get accomplished, how you lead teams, how you connect with individuals, how you connect with new opportunities sort of opens up and changes in a way that is really hard to explain. And so a lot of female executives back in the past, when they were like sort of fighting to shatter the first glass ceiling, had a very sort of tough exterior. They're sometimes, might be the toughest bosses you'll ever work for, because you can imagine the work that you had to do to just get where you were today, to be even leading a team in the technology industry. And so today, I think I can lead with humility. I can have a softer side. I can be excited about my team and my people and customers and partners, and that's okay. I don't have to be anything other than my authentic self, and I can be a person that actually is someone that will express gratitude in my life to all of you, and it doesn't make me a weaker person. It doesn't make me any less successful or not good at doing the business I need to do. I can do all of that and be a high-performing executive and a person that gives back into the community, and I can be a nice person. I can be a nice person. I want to be a nice person. I want to be a mean person. And so for me, this was a little bit of, I could practice these every day, and I could really fulfill my time with purpose, then I felt that I was able to crack this sort of secret code, if you will, of not only feeling to build a successful career in technology, but fulfilling myself along the journey, and then leaving an industry in a better place than when I started that in my early careers back in the University of Washington as the only female in engineering. I mean, look at us now. Look at the women in pretty much every area of tech. It is going to be an amazing ride to see, and I just wanted to be part of that and be part of the commitment to make the change. And so I'll just close by saying that no matter what happens and what you do and what you choose for your purpose, find some humor. Find some humor in your life. Find some humor in your work. Find humor with your friends. Humor is an incredibly powerful medicine and connector of people. And when you can sort of not take things too seriously and realize things aren't perfect and find a little humor, it is a way that I think connects us to people on a whole nother level. And so it was one for me, is sort of find the humor in whatever you are doing to build your purpose. One of my favorite quotes, I was at a women's march here in San Francisco pre-COVID, obviously, but you'll see a lot of this on my LinkedIn. It's sort of one of my favorite quotes, and of course, Martin Luther King Jr., sort of one of my favorite icons. But this is really about taking action. And so I'll just leave you with this, which is you don't have to see the whole staircase, just the first step. What are you going to do to make your first step? What are you going to do to take your first action? What are you going to do to continue to build your life with purpose? And when you write that down and you start to practice it and you commit to what is going to help you, it is unbelievable what we will be able to do as a community of female women in technology over time. We will be unstoppable, and we will fix that crazy curve, and we will be at a place that you will see innovation at an all-time high. And so with that, I really want to thank all of you. I want to thank Splunk for allowing me to come here and still have an opportunity to connect with you. Please connect in with me at my LinkedIn and Twitter. Please, I will make sure that I'm very active and connect all back with you as well. And if you have any questions or comments on this, throw them in the chat. Send me on LinkedIn. Let's get the conversation started. So let's have that dialogue. Tell me what your purpose is, how you're working together, and then let's keep this open for everyone to connect.